Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into a live episode of Let There Be Talk, brought to you right here from the great pop-up studio, ATC pop-up studio in Phoenix today. We are in Phoenix, Arizona, and the festival is presented to you by Bud Light, Cityscape, and Tito's Handmade Vodka. Right here, we're live on the street. There's absolutely zero fans here, Sorry, two fans. We got two people. Well, meanwhile, we are the Let There Be Talk. I always say I'm the stepchild of ATC out here. Over 5.5 years podcasting, 87 episodes. And meanwhile, everyone's over at Bert Kreischer's across the street. I'm over here with no one. That's how my career is. It's like, it's going to be great for you. Wait till you get out there. And then I show up. I'm like, yeah, all right. This is about it right here. Anyway, I don't care, actually, because it's I love doing the show. And I like I said, over 5 years I've been doing this podcast, and it just went by, and I didn't even have like some 5-year anniversary. But I wrote down some notes. I'm at 911 reviews, which is pretty damn amazing. I've been trying to get to 1,000, but in the last few weeks, the reviews have been incredible. People stacking them up, and don't forget to subscribe and keep that going. I have something I want you guys to do if you are a long-time listener. I get a lot of people that say, you should have such and such on the show or whatever, and I've already had that person on. So I think a cool thing to do would to be all this week as you listen to this episode, what you should do is tweet a link to your favorite episode. You know, like say you liked one with Nikki Sixx. Go, hey, my favorite Let There Be Talk is Nikki Sixx episode, and tweet it so other people could find it. And as I thought about that, I went through some of my favorite episodes as I look back at Let There Be Talk. And the reason I was looking back was I was pretty damn happy to be part of this network when I first was asked to do it. Years ago, I think there was only about 7 podcasts on ATC, and it was like Bill Burr, it was Ari Shaffir, Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, Al Madrigal had one on there, the Minivan podcast. I think it was called Minivan Dads or something. Doug Stanhope. And then when I was asked to be part of the network, I was pretty blown away and proud. So I looked back a little bit at some of my favorite episodes. I looked back, Jerry Cantrell. I was on tour with Jerry Cantrell and Alice in Chains last year. Got to do a podcast with him. That was a dream guest, which was amazing. Dave Meniketti from Y&T. A lot of people think that's the all-time best episode on Let There Be Talk, and I gotta say, as I look at that episode, I think it was right around when I probably had diabetes at first and didn't realize it, because as I did that episode, which was 3 hours, I had to go across the street and do a show at the San Jose Improv. And on the adrenaline, I think, of interviewing one of your idols and the lack of food and stuff, man, I felt fucked right after that thing. And I just kind of was, I look back at that now and go, wow, I think I was sick then. But that was an amazing episode. Of course, Jerry Casale from Devo. I did 2 parts with him, and it was Devo being one of my favorite bands of all time. That was monumental to me. Alison Mosshart from The Kills and the Dead Weather. She does not do interviews, and to have her on Let There Be Talk was next level, and we have become very good friends. And of course, the ultimate was a few weeks ago, Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue, which blew the numbers right out of the fucking park. And a couple days ago, because of that podcast, I got to host Nikki Sixx's live book signing that was worldwide, and that shit was insane. So that's some of my great podcast guests that I looked back on. Of course, I love all the episodes. I think about the handmade episodes, and I really love the handmade episodes. I'm proud of those, and I want to try to get a TV show with that going on. but to have people on that make stuff and work outside the box in this world is incredible. If it's art or, you're an architect or you build choppers or make clothes or whatever, I love those kind of people. And I think back to one of my favorite handmaids, which was Bo Gorey from LA Watchworks, and we talked Rolex. Kevin Christie and I with him, we're huge watch fans. And these episodes are not always the biggest, but to me, they seem to be the best because people learn from them. And I used to love this show growing up in the Bay Area called Bay Area Backroads, where the guy would go to weird spots all over the Bay Area and you would learn shit about people. So I love that. And speaking of watches, yesterday, the legendary Paul Newman Daytona sold for $17,700,000. And that is a world record for a wristwatch. And the insaneness of that watch, I believe it was probably around, it was bought in 1968. I don't know the exact price, but it was probably bought new for about $900. So can you imagine buying something in 1968 and then selling it today for $17,700,000? That's unbelievable to me. And the thing is, I love Rolexes and I love the Daytona, and the Daytona is always known as the Paul Newman watch because it was the one that his lady bought him, and he started wearing it during racing. When a watch is nicknamed after you, that's the iconic watch. So that particular watch he gave to a guy that was dating his daughter. I want to get this right. Here's how the story goes, which is really great story, and I'll tweet it up later. I'm sure you guys are seeing all the clickbait on it all over the internet right now of Paul Newman Rolex sells for $17,700, and then you start digging around like, I think my grandpa has a Rolex, and you think you're rich. You got to wait a few minutes here and look at it. Let's see here. Let me get the rundown. Here it is. Joanne Woodward purchased the Rolex watch in 1968 at Tiffany & Company in New York during the same period that Newman was embarking on his racing career. Mindful of her husband's new interest, she had the back of the watch engraved with "Drive Me Carefully." Sorry, "Drive Carefully Me," not "Drive Me Carefully." That's pretty fucking funny, right? "Drive Carefully Me." The following year, the couple appeared in the film Winning Together, where Newman played a racing driver competing in Indy 500. The film was inspired the auction's title, Winning Icons, which where the watch was auctioned off at Phillips in New York yesterday. Over the years, the Rolex Paul Newman Daytona has become known as taking on a mythical proportion. And here's how it went down right here. Let's see, where is that story? I gotta find that actually. I don't know. Wait, here. I think it's at the top of the story. Here's how the guy that sold it got it. He. This is, if I wasn't doing live, this is where I would be pausing and trying to get my shit together. Let's see here. Here it is. In 1984, the watch owner James Cox was given the watch by Paul Newman. Paul Cox was dating Newman's daughter. Cox and Newman haven't been a couple since '93, but they both went to the auction together. They auctioned it off, and part of the money's going towards a bunch of stuff, some causes that Paul Newman would have loved. Anyway, enough of that. I got all sidetracked, but it's pretty insane for a watch to sell for $17 million. That's not gold. It doesn't have diamonds. It's just a stainless steel watch that was, in the 80s, nobody wanted. Nobody cared about those watches. They thought they were ugly. Anyway, so back to my point is I love the handmade episodes, and I'm pretty proud of them. As far as some upcoming dream guests, Everybody always asks who your dream guest is, and I have many, but since I booked the guests myself, they're really hard to get and almost impossible. It has to be like an almost fluke that it happens, like I'm here in Phoenix. I would have loved to have Alice Cooper. He lives here, but he's on tour in Europe. One of my dream guests would be Rob Halford from Judas Priest. I hit him at Instagram, which is hilarious. Like, hey, buddy, he doesn't even know me. Maybe you could stop down at the Pop-Up Podcast where no one's at and do my podcast. I know you're not busy. Anyway, he would have been great. And then I hit up Dave Elfson, which was going to do it from Megadeth, but he flew to South America today to play with Megadeth. So I thought, those are some amazing Phoenix guests, and the way this show usually works is eventually they all become guests on here, and they seem to happen right in time. When I don't have a guest, some magic will happen. One of my biggest dream guests I saw 2 nights ago. I went to see the Yeah Yeah Yeahs at the Fonda. They have not played for 4 years as a band. And many times over the years doing this podcast, people say, hey, who's your greatest frontmen, front persons? Who do you love? And who do you think was the greatest you ever seen? And I always say, one of them being Bon Scott, of course. Another one of the greatest front persons, people of all time would be, to me, Robert Plant. But then when I really look into it, I think about Zach De La Rocha from Rage Against the Machine, one of the most dangerous ever. Axl Rose, of course, is in there. I always love danger. I love authenticity and all that. And this woman, Karen O, is definitely in the top 5, 6, 7 of greatest front people of all time that I've ever seen front a band. And people are like, Karen O. And I laugh because I think about, if you're into Lady Gaga, that's cool. I always say promote what's great, not what you hate. But I laugh when people talk about like Lady Gaga or any of these, female pop stars, and they try to say that they're artists, they're amazing. No one comes close to Karen O. And as I watched her again at 38 years old a couple nights ago, which is not old, but in a rock and roll world, sometimes people start to mellow out or they change. And as I watched her, once again, it was just like the first time I ever saw her live. She absolutely blew my fucking mind. And the crowd, hats off to the Fonda crowd that was there in LA, because LA crowds are usually pretty sedate. They were going ballistic, and you could tell the world missed the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. And they've got a box set out right now, and they reissued their record, the Fever record, on vinyl, 180 milligram right now with an incredible box set. So Karen O, which by the way, I ran into her manager, Dave Becky, who also manages Bill Burr. And sometimes I'm just blunt right to people, and I was like, look, Becky, I've got to have her on. And he was like, yeah, all right. But Karen O, one day I hope to have her on because she is absolutely incredible. So that is hopefully a guest coming up one day. Let's get into it here. So the episode, I've been wanting to talk about Tom Petty since he passed away, and it was a really a rough topic for me to talk about because I absolutely worship Tom Petty. And of course, we lost him just a few weeks ago, which is insane, to think about. I saw the last show ever now, which I can't even believe I'm never going to see Tom Petty again. I think he was 66 years old, and I saw him at the Hollywood Bowl. I had no idea that was going to be the last time I ever saw him. And as much as Prince really affected me and Bowie, Petty to me, I had opened for Petty playing music. I had seen Petty zillions of times, and he just seemed like one of my friends. Like, I just thought he'd be around forever. And even though I didn't know him, he's one of those guys that just felt like an uncle or something. He's always there. He's always on the radio. He's always in my life. And I think a lot of people just figured Petty would be around forever. He has a zillion hits. The first time I ever saw Tom Petty was on Into the Great Wide Open tour. They had a giant tree on the stage. Lenny Kravitz opened on the Let Love Rule tour, and it was just insane. And from that on, that era on, I absolutely fell in love with Tom Petty. You know, Tom Petty, a lot of people, of course, know the hits. Tom Petty's a lot like the Cars. Tom Petty could play an entire show of only hits, and you would just be like, I can't believe. There's no piss tracks, I always call that. When you go to a concert, and you're like, oh, good, here's a song I can go take a piss to. Tom Petty has no piss tracks, which is incredible. But what I thought would be cool is to go through the records today and celebrate the songs, the deep tracks that nobody ever talks about, which is incredible because, of course, Tom Petty has all these hits, but he also has these deep tracks that any other band, if any other band had one of these songs, it would be their number one fucking song, and they'd be playing county fairs their whole life on one song, you know? Which, by the way, on the way out here to Phoenix, I saw a billboard for Uncle Kracker. Uncle Kracker was playing some casino, and I was like, Uncle Kracker. I mean, I couldn't pick him out of a two-man lineup. You know what I mean? Uncle Kracker was a DJ for Kid Rock, and I think he had one, like, I'm not even going to call it a hit. I'm not ripping on him or anything, but it was hilarious to think that a guy like Uncle Kracker was out still working. And then I thought, if he had one of these Tom Petty deep tracks, he would probably be doing even better. You know, he'd be able to do like every festival on the planet with one song. So I thought it'd be cool to celebrate some Tom Petty deep tracks, and a lot of people are going to dig this that don't know Tom Petty other than the standard song. So we'll get into the first record right now, which is the first Tom Petty record came out in 1976, and it really was the, let's see, how old was I? I was 10 years old. I was born in 66. I'm old as fuck. I'm 51. But it came out in 76, and I absolutely remember my mom had this piece of shit Volkswagen Bug. It had a great AM radio. And this track, Breakdown, came on, and I think that was really where I fell in love with I would call that a rock ballad. It's not your standard 80s, you know, White Snake, Is This Love? That kind of ballad, but it's an actual, you know, it's got a ballad feel to it, and that's when I first find out about Tom Petty, and I go out and I get that record, I believe about, not for like 2 years, because my first record is Partridge Family, I Think I Love You. That's the first piece of vinyl I owned, and then it was Don McLean's Bye Bye Miss American Pie. As I clear my throat, Burr was telling me something funny while we were on the road. This guy was talking to us, and he didn't clear his throat, and Burr was like, I fucking hate guys that don't clear their throat. Fucking clear your throat, man. He walked away all heated. Come on, just drink some water or coffee. It's hilarious. You know when you got that and you don't want to be rude, like when I'm doing morning radio, I don't want to be rude and be like coughing on it. So you just ride it out. So things that Burr say to me stick with me. I'm like, I better clear my throat around Burr. I don't want him to be like, this fucking guy. Anyway. So Don McLean, Bye Bye Miss America Pie, and then Kiss, Rock and Roll Over. So those are the three records. But then I get heavily into Tom Petty, which is crazy, and I think that's the early juxtapose of my music taste. If you go from like Partridge Family, I'd still listen to that right now. Kiss, Tom Petty. You know, and then later on getting into some R&B of like Earth, Wind, and Fire. So Anyway, the first record has Breakdown and American Girl. Everybody knows those tunes. Everybody. They're Americana. They're apple pie of rock and roll. Everybody worships them. But if you don't know this song, and I'm going to play a little bit snippets of each song just to give you a little taste. This song right here, Fooled Again, was on it, track number 7. Check it out. What a great song, man. Absolutely love that track. And that's on the first record, so, you know, get out there and get all your deep Tom Petty tracks, man, because, you know, you're gonna be blown away. It'll be like having a new Tom Petty record, you know what I'm saying? You'll be like, oh my God, look at all this gold right here. So that's off the 76 first record, which, by the way, how about your first record? You got Breakdown and American Girl. You're like, yeah, I got a couple tunes here. And here we are in 2017. It's played every day of our lives on classic rock radio. Just unbelievable. The second record coming out, which a lot of people don't even know about the second record, which is pretty funny. It came out in 78. It goes down to those things where I always ask people, why did you stop listening to a band? And I've said it over and over. How come you don't listen to Kings of Leon anymore if you loved them? And they're like, I don't know. Do they got a new record? And you're like, are you out of your mind? That, if you look at a band like Tom Petty that has Breakdown and American Girl, why wouldn't you buy the next record right away? I mean, to me, I'm like, I can't wait for their new record. I'm a music junkie. I want to hear what they got. So the next record comes out in 78. You're going to get it. And everybody knows the hits, you know. Don't Do Me Like That, Refugee, Here Comes My Girl. Which, by the way, how great is that line? I think it's one of the greatest lines ever. You think you're going to take her away with your money and your cocaine. That is a genius line right there. That record came out in 78, but a lot of people don't know about this song on the record, which is incredible. And I also want to give heads up to their drummer, Stan Lynch, who later on left. And you can watch that Tom Petty documentary. It's 4 hours on Netflix. And I truly believe, and I've said it over and over, the key to a great band, if they're a killer band and they're amazing, always around, they've got a great drummer. Without a great drummer, your band is just mediocre and probably isn't going to be one of the greats. And Stan Lynch is one of the all-time greatest swing drummers. He's got groove and feel. He's a lot like Adler in Guns N' Roses. Once you get a different drummer, yeah, they're great drummers technically, but the feel is gone. And I love Tom Petty, and of course, later on, they played without Stan Lynch. But in the back of my head, I was always like, wow, I wish Stan Lynch was still here playing these grooves, you know? And it's funny, I was talking about a couple days ago, I don't know what the hell Stan Lynch is doing right now, and you just don't hear about him. But man, that guy was drum gold. It's a lot like, you know, when you get into the whole thing with the Police. People don't like each other in bands, but man, you got to have that feel. Anyway, let's get into my next favorite song, Deep Track, which is on that record, the second record. You're going to get it. You're going to get it. And here it is. The song is called Shadow of a Doubt. And I think you guys will enjoy this. And here you go. Let's see here. I'm just doing all this on the fly. So usually at home I would add these songs later. I've actually had to kind of get my shit together. Where is this track? Oh, you know what? I got the wrong track on here. Is this, wait, which one? Shadow of Doubt. Oh, that's on the third record. Sorry, I'm out of my mind. Restless is the one. Restless right here. Here we go. Here it is right here. There it is right there. And since we are doing this live, I kind of fucked up a little bit on my notes because the notes are just all crammed together like a crazy man. Anyway, that's on the second record, but then I mentioned tracks from Damn the Torpedoes, people out there, which is great because people would be like, hey, dude, you're all fucking wrong there, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. I was mentioning tunes off Damn the Torpedoes and then played a deep track off You're Gonna Get It, which which is funny because Listen to Your Heart is the track with the cocaine lyric, of course, and that song was off the second record. The third record, Damn the Torpedoes, is what I was talking about. Don't Do Me Like That, Refugee, Here Comes My Girl. And of course, that is the absolute record that blows the doors open for Tom Petty. Smash hit songs. The record comes out in 1979. It is just a classic. Everything about Tom Petty is on this record. If you look at the cover, he's got the Rickenbacker. And I always thought as a kid it was called Down the Torpedoes, but it's Damn the Torpedoes, of course. It's a 36-minute record of smashing tunes. And there's a deep track on this record that I just think is phenomenal, and not very many people talk about it, and I'll play it for you. It's called Shadow of a Doubt. Here it is. That song is so smoking, man. Killer groove, those bongos. You gotta love those bongos in there, man. And then the chorus is great. So smoking, man. And the great thing about that song is it's got all the Tom Petty flavor. That's the sound of the Heartbreakers right there, which the band is so underrated. Ben Montench on the B3 organ. Come on, man. That guy, Mike Campbell. Mike Campbell is one of the greatest secret weapons in rock and roll ever. And a lot of people don't know, but he played the slide on 6th Avenue Heartache on the Wallflowers track. And that is one of the big hooks on the song. You know, with songwriting, there's so much to it. There's hooks. You got the chorus is hooky, that sticks in your head. You've got the thematic lead that's hooky, and then you have some lyrics that are hooky. And when you have that thematic lead, Mike Campbell many times, over and over and over, hitting home runs with the perfect lead or just some kind of tasty thing in there. Which, by the way, one of the best things about seeing Tom Petty live, if you're a guitar freak like myself, these guys would go out with about 20 guitars each. You know, most rock stars would play one guitar, maybe two their entire life, like Jimmy Page, Les Paul. There it is, the flame top. Clapton, a black Strat, you know, Blackie. Angus Young, SG. Everybody would have like one or two guitars. But when you go see Petty, they're going to have an incredible amp collection, which I always would look at. And then they're going to have an incredible guitar collection. So not only are you getting great songs and a great concert, but then if you're a super gear freak nerd like me, you start going like, oh shit, look at that Fiesta Red Strat. And they both have them. Oh, look at that Firebird 1 with one pickup. They both have them. They'd come out and both play the same guitars, Rickenbackers, incredible acoustics. Insane. So that's one of the fun things. Petty came out with a record. A lot of people don't know a lot of these records. A lot of people know the first record, then they know Damn the Torpedoes, but they don't know stuff like You're Gonna Get It or Hard Promises. And Petty came out with a record called Hard Promises, and it had two monster hits on it, great songs, The Waiting and Woman in Love. But a lot of people don't know this track, which I feel could have been a song on the Eagles' Long Run record. It really has the Eagles' Long Run vibe to it, and you'll understand when I play it for you. The Hard Promises record came out in 1981, and this song is called The Night Watchman. What an incredible song right there, man. Sounds like something off the Long Run, you know? Like Them Shoes, you know? Da-na, da-na, what you gonna do tonight, mama? That stuff was great. And this Hard Promises record also, you know, of course you know about the big hit that Tom Petty and Stevie Nicks did on her record. And if you've watched that Defiant Ones on HBO, which, by the way, is one of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen, with Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine. And Jimmy Iovine is one of the genius producers behind Tom Petty and an absolute master. If you watch that, you'll see the whole dynamics between Tom Petty and Stevie Nicks and learn a lot of crazy secrets about that. But on this record, there was a beautiful ballad that they did together called The Insider, and it's absolutely fantastic.
You got a dangerous background and everything you dreamed of. Yeah, you're the dark angel. It don't show when you break up.
anyway, check that record out. It's so good, and you know, it's just loaded with great deep tracks. Killer album cover. I love that. Let's get into this one here. In '82, Petty came out with a record, Long After Dark, and it's got him on the cover with a telly, which that's the Tom Petty for me. I feel Tom Petty, when he puts on a Telecaster, that's Tom Petty to me. Made me love the Telecaster, him and Bruce Springsteen. I used to hate the Telecaster growing up. I was like, that guitar is not rock. That thing's dumb. You know, I was just an idiot. I was like, that's country western. That's not rock and roll. And then I was so dumb, you know, because look, Bruce is the king of rock and roll, and so is Petty, and they both play tellies. And later on, that telly that Petty played on the Wildflowers record, some dude made it for him. I've talked about it a few times. It's my favorite telly ever made. And it made me want to get a telly, and I've been a telly freak ever since. And I think it's the greatest guitar ever made for a singer-songwriter, kind of Americana rocker. If you're going to strum a guitar, you're not like a lead demon. That guitar, the Telecaster, is the one. This has Long After Dark, has a picture of him on the cover with the great Telecaster. It looks like a Telecaster Custom, which is one of my favorites with the binding and everything on it. I love Tele Customs. This record, Long After Dark, had the great hit, You Got Lucky, You Got Lucky, Baby, and Change Your Heart, which is a great one. Yeah, to change. But, you know, nobody really knows about that song, Change Your Heart, too much. But the really cool deep track on this is Straight Into Darkness. And another great dark, deep track. Here it is, Straight Into Darkness. Tom Petty is the king of the chorus. The guy has the greatest chorus and great lyrics. It's so hard to write lyrics. You know, everything's been said. Everything has been said. She left me. I love her. I don't love her. I'm drunk. I got a car. I go fast. Let's shoot out the night. Whatever. Everything has been sang about. Everything. It's like comedy. When you think about writing jokes, everybody has said it already. So what is your take on it? What is your take on love? What is your take on, you know, traveling? What is your take on being poor? What is your take on being rich? Whatever, you need to have your take be original on it. And that's what people say when it comes to comedians, of having your own voice, and same with writing lyrics. Everything has been said. Next up, the record, this is an interesting thing. In 1985, Tom Petty put out a record called Southern Accents. And I remember specifically Jacob Dylan, who I respect and I think is one of the greatest songwriters, which Bruce Springsteen recently named Jacob Dylan one of the top 10 great songwriters in his mind. That's Bruce Springsteen saying that. And I always say, the magnitude of having Bob Dylan as your dad, you know, try and fucking erase that shadow. It's absolutely impossible. You know how many people have famous dads, and as soon as they're in it, people are like, see you later, fucking, you know, and try to do that. And then he does it, and then has incredible hit records, a long-running career, and amazing songwriter. My point is, I remember talking one night with Jacob about Tom Petty, which many times we talked about Tom. And I said, what's your favorite song? And he's like, oh, man. It was so funny because I remember him telling me this right away. He was like, Southern Accents, the actual song Southern Accents. So the hit on the record is, what is it? Don't Come Around Here No More. Of course, massive hit. But Southern Accents, and as I went back and listened to that, after Jacob told me that, I was like, this is a great song.
There's a southern accent where I come from. The young'uns call it country. The Yankees call it dumb. I got my own way of talking, but everything is done with a southern accent where I come from.
That's a beautiful song, man, right there. Southern Accents. Got an amazing album cover. All of Petty's covers are great. Southern Accents. That's a track I didn't really know about because when we start getting into Petty deep in the 80s, you know, he's putting out records and they're kind of going by, especially this next record, which I'm a giant Tom Petty fan. And this record to me is the strangest Tom Petty record that he ever put out. It was in 1987 called Let Me Up, I've Had Enough. It had the song on it, Jammin' Me. You know, everybody knows that one. Petty would open a lot of shows with it. You're jamming me. It was so great, man. It's just a great rock and roller and great lyric. You're jamming me. But it's a really weird record. It's a strange looking cover. It looks 80s. It's kind of tearaway, the art. They call it tearaway. And I love the editor's notes. Let Me Up, I've Had Enough is a return to the tight, hard rock classic that established Tom Petty. And I was reading this and I was like, this doesn't sound like Petty to me much, where it kind of sounds more like the Times. At the Times, we had Dire Straits was big out there, you know, and this kind of sound, you'll hear it because this song right here on the record, which is a great track, it kind of has a Dylan meets Dire Straits vibe to it, and it's called My Life, Your World. And check it out, man. Totally crazy sounding. Oh, I fucked that up. That was a bad move. That's what happens when you're going live. Hold on, we got to get that again because I don't want to mess that up. See, I'm trying to cue up the songs as I'm doing it, which is totally something I wouldn't do. I would usually just drop the tunes in, and this kind of podcast would take me about 7 fucking hours to do. I have no producer, I have no assistants or anything, so I'd be sitting home on a Sunday, dropping these tunes in, losing my fucking mind. But let's get back into that. Here it is. Wait for it. Which, by the way, that was a weird intro. It's like a weird country intro into this. Kind of Dire Straits. Also, one headlight. One headlight.
They came this morning with a dog on a chain. They came and took my little brother away. His generation never even got a name. Oh no. Yeah, my mama was a rocker way back in '53. And buy some more records that they sell on TV. I know Chuck Berry wasn't singing that to me.
I'm willing to bet like 99% of people out there have not heard that Tom Petty song, and it's just like, what a cool flavor, man. It's definitely different sounding for Tom Petty, and really smoking, you know? And you got to look at that era right there. That's probably, in most people's eyes, they're like, yeah, you know, Tom Petty, he might be done now, you know? A lot of times I think the industry would think, you know, Tom Petty, he had those great 70s hits, and, you know, he's probably done. And in the business, people are like, he's getting a little long in the tooth. You know, you're in the biz. Let's say that's what is that? What year is that record? 87. So he had been in the biz, 76 to 87. That's a long career right there already in rock and roll. So people are thinking maybe he's done. That record didn't have a monster hit. And then he slips off and does his first solo record, which absolutely fucking murders. Full Moon Fever. You are not even ready for how big this record comes out. Full Moon Fever, 1989. Look at the hits on it. Free Fallin', I Won't Back Down, Running Down a Dream. This thing is loaded. Of course, he had Johnny Depp in his video, cruising around in a Harley, absolutely murdering it, and you know, just full of fucking hits, you know. But a lot of people don't know this song on Full Moon Fever because it was so hit loaded that people probably just listen to the hits. I mean, look at all those hits on it. But this song, Love is a Long Road, is incredible. What a great song right there. And just once again, any other band, it would be their best song ever. It's just track number 5 or whatever on a Petty record, you know? Just unbelievable, this guy. Just smoking. And then he follows it up with one of the greatest Heartbreakers records, Into the Great Wide Open, 1991. Which has crazy hits on it too, you know, Into the Great Wide Open, of course, Learning to Fly, an incredible song. And this is when I see Petty, so 91, you know, I'm thinking I had to see Petty before this. My brain is pretty shot because I can't imagine that I didn't see Petty before 91, you know, but I do think I remember this tour so vividly. It was at Oakland Coliseum, and it was one of those ones where I went last minute, and then thank God I saw it. And also, like I said, Lenny Kravitz opened the tour on Let Love Rules, and Kravitz was crushing it with that. You know, that record is fantastic with all that Freedom Train and Let Love Rule and Mr. Cab Driver, all those fucking songs. So that's just a songsmith night there. You go see Tom Petty and Lenny Kravitz together, you're just an overdose of incredible songwriting. But of course, that record had Learning to Fly on it and Into the Great Wide Open. Massive, massive hits. But the song I love is Out in the Cold, man. This thing is great. Not to be confused with Judas Priest, Out in the Cold. Right there it is, Out in the Cold. I feel like a radio DJ right now. There it is right there, K95, 105. We got traffic out there in Phoenix. It's hot as fuck out there. Stay off the highway. Tom Petty, he'll be here coming soon right there. There's Tom Petty, what a great guy, man. Just fucking radio voice. All right, yeah. All right. Most people, and I would say most Monster Tom Petty fans, are all going to say this next record was the one that they probably play every day of their life if they get up to want to hear some Tom Petty. They go, I want to hear some Tom Petty. They're going to put this record on. In 1994, Tom Petty worked with Rick Rubin, and they went to Sound City, and they tracked what could be one of the greatest records ever to come out of an American songwriter. They did a record called Wildflowers, which I didn't know until about a year ago was actually going to be a double record. Now, what I understand, and I read this somewhere, and then I've been trying to find it again, but if you listen to the LA Times last interview with Tom Petty, which was done 2 days after the last show ever at Hollywood Bowl, so September 27th or so, LA Times went out and interviewed Tom Petty for about an hour. And he had planned to do some Wildflowers shows. Wildflowers was supposed to be a double album, which I never knew. And the record company, which Tom Petty had fought all his life, he always fought with record companies. Over album prices, over songs, over royalties. This guy was a fucking soldier. He does not get enough credit for changing a lot of stuff for other artists. And I read, even recently, that he was pretty bummed when his label wanted to raise the record. Once he was popular, they wanted to raise his price of his record $1 more than anybody else's. And he was like, fuck you, you're not doing that. And he said he was really surprised that other artists didn't back him up on this. He was like, wow, I was just out there by myself, a lot like Lars Ulrich when he was battling Napster, you know, and now everybody's like, oh, Lars looks like he was right, you know, but, you know, you're out there and you believe in something and then you don't have any backup from your other peers. It's always insane to me because, you know, it's all about the artist. And he's like, hey, man, we're ripping off fans here. Let's say no to all the other people. And they're like, I don't want to fucking cause any waves. I just want to play rock and roll, dude. Why are you always so fucking edgy? And I love that about Tom, man. He's an absolute fucking soldier. So he puts out Wildflowers. It's not a double record. And I heard that they're going to do a box set that's going to have the original Wildflowers record and then the second record together. The combination of Rick Rubin and Tom Petty was it was monumental. It was monumental because Tom was at a part in his career where his records were kind of big hits, big sounding, a lot like ELO, a lot like you know, that Wilburys thing, harmonies, all kinds of sonic bigness, which can also be a curse later, which it never was with Petty, but you can put a record on and you go, oh my God, this record's so 80s. Listen to those reverbs and those gates and the fucking, you know, the vocal. Rubin was wise and said, let's strip it back down. Let's hear the songs for what they are. The record is an absolute masterpiece. Tom's records all have hits and they have songs that I love on them, but this record is 100% masterpiece all the way through, and I can't even imagine what the outtakes are going to be like. They're not outtakes. They were just songs from the second record that didn't come out, but I really want to hear this second session, which is, and this is one of the big travesties of Tom Petty passing away. We're never going to get to see him play these double record from top to bottom. But I did see this tour 1,000,000 times, and it was when I become full-blown Tom Petty fanatic. And I mean, like, it's right at the time, let's see here, 94. I learned to play guitar around 90, I would say 96. And this is one of the reasons probably, because I'm like, well, I really need to write my own songs. Before I just wrote lyrics and melodies, but I was a slave if I didn't have a guitar player or a keyboard player around. And I realized, holy shit, I want to be able to go out and play every day of my life if I want to, like a comedian. Right now, I have full freedom. I don't need any other person but me to do comedy. And with rock and roll, if you don't play an instrument, let's say Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey without Pete Townsend is just a great singer. But he didn't write music and he didn't write lyrics. But that combination worked great. But for Roger Daltrey just to break off solo, never could do it. So this record, it did all kinds of things to me. It made me love, worship vintage equipment, amplifiers and guitars. It made me love photography because the cover is beautiful with these photos. It made me love Rick Rubin, which I already did love, of course, for years. But it was great to see Rick Rubin start to break off into some Americana. Of course, early on, he's known for Slayer, Run DMC, you know, doing those mashups, and then, of course, Masters of Reality, all that stuff. Anyway, Petty puts this record out, and it just fucking murders. There's a song on it that I always worshipped, and on the last show on September 25th, I believe it was, when I saw Tom Petty, he played this song. He did 4 songs from the Wildflowers, which made everybody in the audience go loony. That's how much people love this record. And he played this song, and I was just like, I just got goosebumps. Every time I hear this song, I go crazy. It's Crawling Back to You. Here it is. a smoker song right there, and of course, Wildflowers. If you're a part-time Tom Petty fan and you do not own this record, immediately run out and buy it. Immediately, you know. It's just a masterpiece, and it is definitely, in 99% of Tom Petty's fans, the deep fans, it's their favorite record of all time. Right after that, he put out a weird record called She's the One, Songs and Music from the Motion Picture, which was a throwaway Jennifer Aniston film in 96, you know, just some junker film. And it has, Tom Petty happened to do the whole soundtrack. And Tom Petty, I think some of these Wildflowers tracks that didn't make it on there, I believe are tracks from this session, which I read. And I know it is because of the sound of it. And I think it was extra tracks that he had. So if it's these songs and there's even more songs from the Wildflowers sessions, it's just insane because these songs are great. A lot of people don't know this record. It's really, really bizarre record. He covers Beck Asshole, which is one of my favorite Beck songs. But he covers one of my favorite songwriters ever, Lucinda Williams, Change the Locks, which is such a great nod to her, which I think probably boosted her bank account big fucking time because she is a complete, you know, she's one of the all-time best, and most people don't know who she is. And I've talked about Car Wheels on a Gravel Road a million times on this podcast as being one of the greatest records ever made. And this song's on there. Tom Petty covered it, Changed the Locks. But there's a song on this record that I believe is absolutely stunning. And it's called Angel Dream Number 4. And here it is.
I dreamed you, I saw your face, cut my lifeline when drifting through space. I saw an angel, I saw my fate. I can only thank God it was not too late. Over mountains, I floated away.
That's the kind of Tom Petty song that just grabs me every time. Right there, I'm a sucker for that kind of shit. Just the intimate Tom Petty right there. And every time I pick up a guitar and strum it, I try to write something like that. Just like, oh my God, what a tune, you know? It's not going to get you rich, and it's not going to be some number one hit. But it's all about what he's talking about in this lyric, you know, and it's just beautiful and it catches you right away. And I love that. And that's a weird record, and I really recommend it, man, because I think it's very underrated record. So yeah, anyway, get into it. I'm going to do 2 more records and then I got to get out of here. But I really, doing this is kind of therapeutic for me because I'm still pretty fucking blown away that he's gone. 66 years old. I can't tell you enough. Go out and live your life and don't fucking sit on the couch and just rot away. You know, you're here. Go do something because you don't know when you're going to be gone. And for Tom Petty to be gone, I seriously thought that he was going to be like Dylan. Dylan is, I believe, the last Wilbury alive. Oh, no, Jeff Lynne, who worked on it. But, you know, who thought that Dylan was going to, you know, outlive them all, you know? And Dylan's out there just playing every day of his life. And Willie Nelson's still out there playing. I really thought that Tom Petty would be like Willie Nelson or Dylan and just be out there forever. I figured Tom Petty would outlive me, man. I mean, that's just kind of how life would go. It would go, okay, it's summertime, gonna go see Petty. you know, there's things. I remember Tom Papa used to have this great joke. He's like, why do people want to live forever? It's just the same shit every year. It's like New Year's Eve, Super Bowl, 4th of July, which is, he did that joke years ago and it stuck in my head. I absolutely loved it. And that's kind of how life is. It'd be like New Year's Eve, Super Bowl, 4th of July, Tom Petty concert. That's how I figure life is going to go. Tom Petty, an interesting thing I did not know about him, and there's a record called Echo, which he does next in 1999, which I think is one of the darkest, greatest Tom Petty records ever wrote. And if you watch the documentary or you read about Tom Petty, he's going through a bad divorce, and he gets hooked on heroin. Like at an age, like, you ever meet a guy at like 40, they start smoking, you're like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? You're 40. You made it. You don't just start smoking. Tom Petty, I forget what age it is. He just goes, yeah, this year I'm going to try heroin. It just becomes a full-blown heroin addict, which at the time, this is right around when I opened for Tom Petty. And I thought it was the last DJ record, but I think it's Echo. And I could ask my bass player because his brain's a little better. He did less cocaine, I believe. But Tom Petty had a bass player because Ron, the original bass player, left the band, and they got a bass player named Howie Epstein, who to me is one of the greatest bass players and background singers ever to be in the rock and roll game. And he is in the Heartbreakers for years, and he did all the incredible harmony vocals, and he just had this really weird vibe to him. He had a crazy hairdo, and he was just really interesting, you know. And him and Petty are just full on doing heroin, which is just crazy. And Howie, at the time, me and my bass player Joey, we would go see Petty, and we would like, holy shit, Howie's about to fucking nod off on the mic. He would just doze off, and he was just out of it. And he's so out of it that he doesn't even make the photo shoot for the Echo record. So if you look at it, it's the whole Heartbreakers band, but no Howie. He doesn't make the photo shoot for a major record release. I mean, how fuck you? Like, to me, I was mad at band members when they didn't make it to rehearsal. Like, oh, I can't make it tonight. I want to watch Friends with my girlfriend. But to not make a photo shoot for the album cover, I would be fucking steaming. I don't care how good you are. I'd be like, you're fucking gone. So he doesn't make it. But this Echo record is very dark, and it's an incredible record. The hit on it, semi-hit, it's not like a big American Girl hit, but the single they released was Free Girl Now, which was an interesting song. But the song that I love on it, and I think you'll dig it too, was this one here, Counting on You.
Somebody's gonna let me down, and I don't know what it's all about, or if it's true. I'm counting on you.
Right there, great song. They also had another song on this record that almost sounds like Nirvana, which would be, let's see, right, check out this tune right here. It's kind of Nirvana sounding right here. Where is it? Oh, right here. I Don't Want to Fight. Listen to this. Kind of Nirvana. there. That's a divorce record, man. They call it, some call it his Blood on the Tracks, his Dylan Blood on the Tracks, heavy divorce songs. Look at the song titles. You're a Free Girl Now, Swinging, Accused of Love, I Don't Want to Fight. This one's for me. All kind of Rhino Skin. Oh, Rhino Skin's cool. Check it real quick. I forgot about this one. What a great tune.
Rhino skin if you're gonna begin to walk through this world. You need elephant balls.
Elephant balls.
If you don't wanna crawl on your hands through this world.
Anyway, great record, and we can go on and on. I'm running out of time here, and before I wind this down, I do want to bring a guest up. But anyway, that's some of my suggestions for some of the greatest Tom Petty deep tracks, and really getting into one of the most incredible songwriters of all time, and one of the greatest performers, and an absolute soldier, never sold out. As people always say, you know what I mean? And a treasure, man. A treasure, a Hall of Famer, a Wilbury. He toured with Dylan and the Heartbreakers. This guy did it all. His dreams came true. It was all fucking hard work, and it was nonstop songwriting, and he never, ever slacked. All his live shows were incredible, including the 20 nights I saw him at the Fillmore in San Francisco. Everything about Tom Petty to me is absolutely home run and the high water mark of a career and a human. I love Tom Petty, and like I said, it felt great to do this episode today. It was really, it was really heartbreaking to find out that he died. And I still cannot believe he's gone. And I'll always shout him out on Instagram and Twitter just to constantly keep that thought out there, because he's not coming back. And I do look forward to the Heartbreakers doing something. I think one of the greatest things would be, a lot of people think, what do you think the Heartbreakers are going to do? Yeah, because they're the greatest players in the game, and they're still there. What would be really cool is if Springsteen went out with the Heartbreakers and did a Heartbreakers tour, a full tribute to Tom Petty. I think that would be insane. Just Springsteen out there. I thank you, everybody that digs deep into the catalogs of that great man's music, and thank you for all your support. ATC, All Things Comedy, absolutely amazing network. And over the years of doing stand-up and this podcast, I've met some great people. I'll bring up my guest right now, Greg Riley. I've talked about him many times. El Cajon Harley, of course, early on, I met Greg in San Diego at the, I guess, the La Jolla Comedy Store. I can't really remember. How are you, buddy?
Good, man.
Good? Where did we meet?
Days. We met at the American Comedy Con, I think, first time.
Oh, there you go.
After I was listening to you.
And it's amazing. The great thing about comedy is, and I look around in this room, Aaron, who's on the dials on this show, all the people I've met over the years. Paul Verzi just walked in. Eleanor Kerrigan walked by. Everybody on this festival I think about 8 years ago, I didn't know any people. And now I have all these great friends, Bill Burr, Al Magical, everybody, Stan Hope, Bert Kreischer, everyone on this network are my friends, and also people like you that I met, and we've become really tight. Right. We've traveled the world, not the world, but we traveled around. We've seen rock and roll together, and we got a partnership where you sponsor the podcast, El Cajon Harley, which is insane. We're about to go ride some 2018 Harleys right now. After this, we're going to go out into the desert and see what these new bikes are all about. Pretty fired up about that.
Hell yeah, it's the hottest bike out there for Harley. 2008 Fat Bob, the new motor. You're going to be able to ride that. I can't even get one at our store, so our sister store here in Chandler is got them ready for us.
It's amazing because I did talk about the new Harleys on an episode, and there was a very, very big loud noise made when these new bikes were released. If anybody watches Sons of Anarchy, you know all about the bikes they ride is called the Dyna. The predecessor to that, it was my favorite bike of all time, the Harley FXR, the one I got ran over on. I miss that bike to this day, and I don't miss a lot of things. When I sell them, I'm done with them. I'm done with that, but that bike I definitely miss. So they discontinue the Dyna, and a lot of big noise because people are like, oh, sacrilege. And they come out with this bike called the Fat Bob, which they always had in a Dyna form, but now it's a single shock, kind of monoshock vibe with a whole new frame. And everybody's saying this bike handles like no other. When you buy a Dyna, you got to put about 10 grand into it to make what this bike is. And a lot of the old guard, which is also like goes down with my bits of there's no good music anymore. People do not like change, and they do not like growth. And this bike, I'm dying to ride it because everybody is loving it.
Yeah, it's a lot like it too. The craftsmanship's there if you relate it to music. The album cover kind of changes, but the quality's still there, and it's an improve. You got to ride them to find out for yourself.
Yeah, that's what we're about to do. And most people that I say always complain about any kind of change, like be it sports, NFL, new rules, or art, or anything, any kind of change, most of the people that make all the noise aren't even buyers. You know what I mean? They're like, fuck that, I can't believe it. But they haven't bought anything ever. They just like to complain.
Yeah, and you're just comparing it to what you know and not reaching out for more,
It's crazy to me because everybody with Harley wants the ultimate handling, so they put all this money into a Dyna with shocks and a big motor and handlebars and Brembo brakes and a different seat and everything. And now, basically out of the gate, you've got all that for a cheap price. And they're like, nah, fuck them. Right. My only complaint would be forward controls because I'm short and I like to ride aggressive with the mid controls. Right. That's my only complaint. But as I saw how you guys fixed it up, I was like, God damn, that bike looks badass. It looks road warrior.
Right, and they're only going to get better, especially with the aftermarket stuff that's coming out. Usually it's about 6 months to a year sometimes with the model change before the aftermarket gets with it. But there are some tweaks Harley is going to have to do, but for the most part, it's the changes for the better.
Really is. And we're out here. There's no helmet. Is there a helmet law here?
Not in Arizona.
Arizona, yeah. It's so funny, man. Like whenever I'm traveling around America, I saw a guy, Burr and I were just in Austin. This is fucking hilarious. The guy's riding down the freeway with his helmet on his arm. Like, nah.
Too hot.
First, yeah, but it wasn't that hot. It was almost like it was like, I'll only wear this if it gets cold or something. So if he went down, they would have to pry the helmet off his arm that he should have been wearing.
Comes off with it.
I love that. I used to do a bit, and it just reminded me, I got to do it again. when people go, yeah, I stopped riding when the helmet law came in. Fuck that. And I was like, that's like saying you stopped fucking when AIDS came around.
For me, it's full face or nothing.
Yeah,
You only
me
get one of
too.
these, man.
Man, I love the full face. Once you ride with a helmet, you're like, what an idiot I am. First of all, the dB of the wind is so fucking loud. It's like 120 dB. That's like being right in front of a speaker at a concert.
Yep.
And then when a rock or bug hits you, holy
like
shit, it
shot by a
fucking hurts.
22.
Yeah, like shot like a 22. You're right. So I love that. There's always complainers my entire life. It would be like, I don't fucking ride the helmet law. They don't tell me what to do. All these people, and they're like, you know what? I found when the helmet law kicked in, people didn't like to ride anyway, and it was their excuse to get out.
And nowadays with the helmets, they vent actually better than not wearing one.
And they're
Just
so great,
breeze
like
and
carbon
light,
fiber.
right?
Yeah.
We
So-
got a good assortment of apparel, parts, all that. El Cajon Harley.
Yeah, El Cajon Harley, incredible. Been a great sponsor for this podcast over a year and a half.
We've had people fly in, come from Texas, come visit us. We took the train in.
Yeah,
ride
from the
out.
podcast, right?
Yeah.
We had guys, a guy flew in from Pat the Plumber
Yep.
from Santa Cruz, bought a bike.
Yep.
And like my pride, I love that my sponsors are shit that I love. Like in a perfect world, I would love just to have the Patreon page. You donate to that, and I don't have to have any ads. In a perfect world, this is a grueling. As if you watch this live, you can see I'm doing all kinds of shit. I got to think up the show. I got to book the guest. I got to edit it. I got to post it up. I gotta pay for Libsyn, equipment, everything. So it's definitely a labor of love. But if I'm gonna have sponsors, it's gotta be something that I love. And Harleys, and of course Rolex. I got a Rolex sponsor, and now I got a new sponsor coming pretty soon. I'll talk about. That's awesome, and so it's great to. And then you and I have been friends through it all, which is incredible.
Yeah.
You know.
We've seen some great shows. I was just thinking the last Petty show was the Mojo, right down the street. One of them that I seen, and he had ZZ Top was gonna open up, but he had Chuck Berry come in instead.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
the fuck opens up for Chuck Berry?
You and I saw we saw GNR together in Vegas.
LA.
That's when I had that's when I got the diabetes.
Yep.
Then we
After the
saw
accident.
AC/DC at Dodger Stadium. We've seen some great shows together, and we've had a great friendship. Now we're out here at the All Things Comedy, and you're a big
Yeah.
comedy fan.
Big.
That's what's amazing, because my sponsor, El Cajon Harley, they're all comedy fans and rock and roll fans,
Right.
so it's just a perfect fit.
It has been. Something out of the box for us rather than just pitching radio ads and whatnot. So it's working out well.
Yeah, right? Because radio ads is just kind of burnt. They go away in a couple days. These are all going to be on
You can
these
come
ads.
back and listen to these, which I do myself, and
Yeah.
you're there.
All right, man. Well, let's go ride these
They're
bikes.
ready for us.
And then we'll talk about them later on another episode. And thank you, everybody that tuned in. Thanks, guys, that came by. We had a rocking 4 people here. It was really about 4 or 5. This shit is getting huge. 5 people, right? I mean, you cannot beat 5 people right there.
They're making me nervous.
Once again, I want to thank Bill Burr and Al Madrigal for having me on the network years ago. It was a highlight, and I constantly grind to put out great episodes, and I do it mostly because I don't want to let them down or all the listeners. So please subscribe and leave reviews on iTunes and spread the word. And don't forget, tweet this week your favorite episode on Twitter. Whatever it is, just put the link and tweet it up, and we'll start retweeting and spreading all the word. I don't care what episode it is in the last 387 episodes, 5.5 years of doing this show. Find your favorite, post it up, and tell me why. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Candles lit.